Hello, my name is Cesar, and I'm here to refute the speech by Hannah about her claim is eliminating the federal budget for the NEA will have a negative impact. And her secondary claims are influence and exposure to art is beneficial, and the NEA provides funding opportunities, and the NEA's impact is effective at a low cost. Going into the first claim, I have a problem with the first claim because she claims that the influence and exposure to art is beneficial by noting a statement from the philosopher Suzanne K. Linger, who states that art is a way to objectify feeling and a way that supports human society in that way, helps us express ourselves. She states that since art is beneficial to us in that way, that she kind of makes the connection that since art is beneficial to us, that the NEA supports the arts, that the NEA is beneficial for us as well. And I think that's a problem of reasoning that is a fallacy. And there's not much proof or evidence that supports the notion that the arts or the NEA have a connection that is necessary, that the NEA's existence supports the arts in a significant way. And going into the second claim, she states that NEA funding provides opportunities, specifically stating that big productions like Hamilton and Next to Normal Broadway productions receive NEA funding, and stating that NEA funded projects attract a lot of private donors because of that NEA money. And looking at the evidence that she uses, it came from a statement by Thomas Campbell of the New York Times. Understanding the context of the statement that he made, he's speaking about a single exhibit in the museum. He's talking about the NEA's money helped them receive private donor money from other people, other private donors. But that's really only one case, and that's cannot be representative of the entire scope of what the NEA does and how much they contribute to. And if you look at the entire quote, he says that even though he says that NEA's money was significant, it's really only a small part of the total budget of the production. And looking at the total budgets of the mentioned Broadway productions, Hamilton and Next Normal, according to official documents from the website Hollywood Deadline and the New York Times, the budget of Hamilton is a rough estimate of about $10 billion, and Next Normal is a rough estimate of about $4 million, or sorry. And the NEA's contribution to those productions, according to the Broadway Journal, was about around $30,000 for both of them. And using, for my own calculations, that's about less than 1% of their total budget. So to state that the NEA's influence upon or impact of their funding was really significant to the overall completion of the production, or just the production in general, is a big inferential leap to make. And finally, the last point is that the NEA's impact is effective at low cost. While it is true that the NEA only receives a small portion of the federal budget, about 0.004% of the federal budget, there's really no evidence or proof that states that the NEA is effective at what it does. She states that the arts and culture industry yields about 4.8 million jobs, but there's no way to prove that those jobs are supported by or provided by the NEA in any way, or that their funding makes those jobs possible. It is stated on the NEA's website that the arts and culture industry is a $730 billion industry, and the budget for the NEA is only a measly $148 million. Without any convincing evidence of where that money is going and what that money is doing, you can't really make the assumption that the NEA money is really impactful and significant to the success of the industry. And for those reasons, the lack of evidence and the problematic reasoning made by using this evidence, it is problematic to accept the claim that eliminating the federal budget for the NEA will have a negative impact. Thank you.
Structure's good. The first point, basically it's a relevance issue. Nobody's disputing that the arts are beneficial to society. The argument concerns whether or not the NEA is essential to having art. And I thought that you kind of pointed out the fallacy of the reasoning that's going on there, but I didn't think that your explanation was as complete as it needed to be. The argument about the money for Hamilton and the other play and how whether it's relatively important. I thought you dug up some information on that put it into perspective. It also sounds like some of the money went to a museum exhibit rather than directly to funding the play. So if that's the case, it seems like it's a tangential argument at best. And then when you put it into the context of what the total budget is, you like you said, it's substantially less than 1% of the total budget there. I think the notion that the NEA is essential to these things, you're suggesting that the plays wouldn't have existed without the NEA funding. That, I think, is the premise that the advocate is taking, but you are pointing out that the amount of money that they provided seems unlikely that would be sufficient to be the tipping point, so to speak, whether or not the productions got developed. And I think you also point out that these are isolated examples, and we don't really have much other information to go on. The third point, where you talk about there's no proof that the NEA has produced any desirable outcomes, I think that's okay. You basically challenge the link to the jobs. And again, you go back to what the NEA's budget is compared to what the arts economic impact is. And it was a little unclear to me. I thought at one point you said 78 billion, then 73 billion, maybe it's 7.3 billion. That needs to be a little bit clearer. Whichever it is, 140 million again is a small element of that, and that seems to be your main argument. That's the reasoning challenge that you're presenting. Okay, thank you. Were you going to give me the outline back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And while I'm getting that outline back, can I just mention, folks, that the typing is a little distracting to me, and it's probably not very polite to your classmates. So if you've got your computer open or your phone's on, let me remind you to turn those things off, please. Thank you. Juan, you're going to be next. Hey.